Good morning. Are you alive, alert, and enthusiastic?
Yes.
Can I hear it? I am alive, alert, and enthusiastic. Amen. So I'm going to start us off this morning by reading 3 quotes. And at the end of it, if you think you know who it is, I'm going to call on one of you, okay? So, first one. And there's a prize. Not all who wander are lost. Quote number 2. Be yourself, not your idea of what you think somebody else's idea of yourself should be. And 3. If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music he hears, however measured or far away. We might have some game music. Any takers for a guess? Sharon? Maya Angelou, nice guess.
Nice guess.
Yes. I appreciate your participant. Angie?
Thoreau.
Thoreau. Yes. And you are the winner of the 5 principles. There's the application party here.
Thank you. Everything.
Invited you next
Come on
week.
down.
And you get a cover. You get a
So the thoughts that I just shared, the profound concepts of belief of Henry David Thoreau, do not those concepts of being authentically yourself, following the beat of your own drummer, following the voice of the wise one within, which is our spiritual power of divine wisdom that guides us. Sometimes we call it that still small voice. And it is small only because we drown it out at times. You see, we all resonate with those deeply, do we not? But even though we resonate with them, it can be challenging to live that in our lives. Not only is it challenging for us, well, I'll speak for myself, and if you have that challenge at times, you can join me by raising your hand, right? Not only can it be challenging for me, or perhaps some of you, but it was challenging for Thoreau as well in his early life. See, we know him as the great American poet, essayist, writer. He was a naturalist. He was an abolitionist. He was an advocate. And early on, he doubted. We talked about doubt last week, and I'm going to review a little bit. You see, he was seen early in life by his family as a burden. His teachers saw him as irresponsible, as a dreamer. His friends saw him as a loner and a loser. And even later on, after graduating and studying writing, literature, his mentor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, criticized him. Didn't think he measured up. He didn't like the tone of voice in his prose and his essays. It was too ordinary, too too close to the common voice. And so all of these voices, the outside voices of our family, of society, of peers, begin to influence him. And it began to doubt his own authentic style of writing. He began to doubt his own authentic calling. So he decides he's going to pack up and go to New York City. He's going to study with the great, sophisticated writer and polish his voice. Well, he was miserable. And he was miserable because he was trying to be what others thought he should be. Write like others thought he should write. And he didn't do very well in trying to be the sophisticated writer. And after 2 years of this, one day he was looking out of his little apartment and he saw a sparrow. And he felt alive. And he knew in that moment he needed to return to Massachusetts, to Walden Pond, to retreat to nature. And he vowed once upon returning never to devalue himself and never to be anybody but his authentic self. And it was at that point that his writing began to flourish as he would go deeper and deeper within. See, there was a purpose of being in that seclusion in nature, listening to the voice within. And his writings, Walden, Life in the Woods, and Civil Disobedience, two of his great works, and he's had many, but Civil Disobedience actually influenced Gandhi and Martin Luther King. You see, he was in the crossroads that I spoke of last week, wow. Where Stephen Cope in The Great Work of Your Life defines doubt, not just as mistrusting your gifts, mistrusting the voice of the authentic self within, but he gives us another definition of doubt as being stuck between two seemingly difficult choices. One choice is to follow the safe path, the path where we think we're going to get approval from our family, our culture, of society. And then the other path is the path of the road less traveled, the path of our authentic self, that light and calling that is within us. If you've had this experience in your life, following the authentic voice or what was alive, or seeking approval or security in your life, if you've had that experience, say, I understand. I understand. You see, we have a very domesticated view of greatness and of success. Many times those voices out there, you've heard of the FDA on our food, the stamp of approval. Well, we look for the stamp of approval of FCS, our family, our cultural society. And as many times those outside voices, the collective outside loud voices, determine the roles that we should play. They influence us, the roles we should play. Who has the power? Who should not have the power? What determines greatness and success? And all of those outside outside norms and voices can drown out if we let it. The voice and the beat of the drum of our authentic self. And in the great work of your life, Stephen Cope speaks of this consciousness of greatness and success, the myth of it and what we follow. And he talks about the myth of grandiosity and devaluing. Now, grandiosity is where we buy into the belief that we have to be big. And by big, in order to think we are great and successful, we have to have celebrity status, national or world renowned name recognition. Our invention has to have the stamp of approval by Shark Tank. Or we have to single-handedly end world hunger. Or be interviewed maybe by Oprah. Right? And the insidiousness, a little lesser or smaller, the insidiousness of this grandiosity that we think defines our greatness can be even seen by how many likes, followers, or viewers we have on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Right? And sometimes I hear drop names. Oh, did you know who showed up in class? Wow, we must really be something here at Unity by the Shore. Or, if there are not 300 people here in this community, maybe we're not something. Something wonderful. See, we have to look at what we think big is. It is more than size. It is more than status. Big is being your authentic, real self to your greatest and full potential wherever it may lead you. So that's grandiosity. So let's look at devaluing. Devaluing is the other side of the pendulum, where we play small. You know, I don't really have any special gifts. I'm not really anybody special. You know, I can never be like so-and-so. And when we are in that energy, in that consciousness, we participate rather, in a form of self-abuse. It's called self-abandonment. And when we're in that space, we're vibrating at a lower energy. So we can never realize our great full potential, whatever that may be for me, because I'm vibrating like this. Small. So I want to share two stories, besides the one I shared about Thoreau, and I got permission from Matt to share this story. That will be the first that I share. So many of you know, many years ago, when the paradigm shift first started, Matt lost a beloved job that he had for U.S. News and World Report. Middle-aged, and he stepped into this energy where, again, we're always questioning, who am I? Do I have anything to offer? And he began getting some jobs that don't have big prestige. And he took on and, was mirroring that, well, am I anybody? And the job that he currently has right now, and see, this is an opportunity, everything is opportunity, for him to really, truly realize his greatness. Like Thoreau, sometimes we need to experience the opposite to come home to the truth. And so he would often say, he works at Amazon overnight as a stower. Not a job of bigness and prestige by society's standard. And so I would have heart-to-heart conversations, because I know culturally too, for a man, your role is everything of your identity. And so a couple of weeks ago, while he was stowing, he came up with an idea how to increase productivity and to make the job better. You see, part of one of his gifts is seeing how things work together. See, as a photographer, the light, the height, I don't know all the technical words, but there's many things that work together. So he was seeing that creative mind and seeing how things play off each other. He came up with an idea. He came home, he was excited. Now nothing changed, his salary didn't change. He still was a stower, but there was a light and excitement alive because he was experiencing something from within. And so he drew a sketch and a diagram, a drawing, and a proposal, and he shared it with upper management, and they are excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the point. We can applaud his desire to listen to the call. But what I invite him and everybody else into also is to let go of the outcome. Because he's engaging in his creative inner wisdom. And when he stays there, and whatever the outcome is, doesn't allow that to stop and return him to smallness. Right? The other one I want to share real quickly, how many of you have seen the other story? How many of you have seen On the Basis of Sex? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah.
So, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has name recognition, does she not? She's world-renowned. She has a job that we would consider prestigious by society's standard. Yes? She's the second woman to become a Supreme Court justice. And guess what? It wasn't her desire to be world-renowned, to be famous, that led her to where she was. It was her desire for justice. It was her desire and passion for fairness, equanimity, that fueled her to be an advocate for what was right and fair. Now, during the day, there was only 2 female law students in her class. And boy, was she discriminated. She would get the nice pat on the head. There were scenes where she would be the only one raising her hand, and the professor would seem like she wasn't there. And you see her battle with that crossroads, that desire to want to advocate for fairness and justice, which was so alive in her, and the role that was handed down by society for a woman in that day. Women were not even allowed to have their own credit cards, ladies. Yes, right. And there was a case that came her way. She never was able to practice law. Nobody would hire her because she was a woman. And so she taught gender equality and law. And this case came before her husband, who was actually a big supporter of hers, that actually had to do with discrimination of a man. He had left his job to take care of his elderly mom who was sickly. And he tried to claim on his taxes all of the expenses, but they wouldn't allow him because he was a man. And men are not caregivers. Right? So she took this, she wanted to take it on, she had resistance by so many people, and the good old boys from Harvard got their best lawyers, and you see her with her desire for fairness, for equality, her desire to make a difference not just for herself, but her daughter and that man who she felt compassion for. And you see her, fueled by that passion, winning a landmark case. So I share that because when we do listen to what is most alive within us and let it go, we don't know where we're going to wind up. But I can guarantee you, where you wind up will fulfill you, because when you are not authentically you, you can never be happy. You can never reach your full potential. So in closing today, I ask you, are you using your divine gifts? Are you existing in grandiosity, the energy or the consciousness of grandiosity or devaluing, regardless of your age or your gender, where you are on the spectrum in life? And so I call you to heed the words of Thoreau. Be yourself, not your idea of what you think somebody else's idea of yourself should be. Be resolutely what you are, for your happiness and fulfillment depends upon it. Namaste.
Namaste.